Hello, Be Health Empowered family. Welcome to another week of Excuse Me, Doctor. We are here every Monday night at 9 o'clock, and thank you for joining us this Monday to kick off another wonderful week that we are going to create. So, we are here to bring you health topics that will help you make decisions for yourself, your family, and your community. And tonight we have an incredible topic lined up for you. It's all about people who are interested in natural medicine and is it compatible for them to take the COVID-19 vaccine? So start sharing this because I know you all know a lot of people who just focus and say, I'm only going to take my vitamins. I'm only going to eat my vegetables. I work out 5 times a week and I don't think I need the COVID vaccine. So this episode is for them. Please share it widely because we're going to have a fantastic show with an incredible guest, actually, Dr. Theodore Watkins. And so I'm going to be bringing him in later. We're going to have a wonderful discussion. And as always, we're going to be taking your questions. So please make sure to start typing them in the chat. So, I always have the weekly recap with my wonderful producers, Lila Mays and Wayne Bruce, and I am going to bring them on right now.
Hey. How's everybody?
Wonderful. I am great. Yeah, absolutely. We're having a blast tonight. So, as always, we start off with the numbers because we're going to be just recapping what happened this week as far as COVID-19. So we always start off with the number of cases. We know that we are over 33 million cases of COVID-19 in this country, but things are actually seeming to improve. We are down from 250,000 cases a day back in January to now just over a few hundred, about 50,000 cases a day, which is still a lot, but a significant improvement. But we're concerned about the variants still that are popping up. For example, in a state like Florida, we have mainly the B1, the variant out of
Florida's
the UK.
Out of control. They got 180,000 variants.
Right. Well, not quite 180,000 variants. But they have a lot.
That's what I'm reading. I'm reading 180,000 maybe 180,000.
I think that's a little bit much. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But they have a lot of variants, and it's because they're getting it from both sides. They're getting people all over the United States going down to Florida to vacation, and they're getting folks from South America coming up to vacation and go shopping and do business in Florida. And so all these populations are mixing together, and we're seeing variants just exploding there. So, yeah. I don't know what's going to be happening with Florida with all those variants, but we'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope that they decide to get vaccinated. And then, of course, unfortunately, the number of souls lost to COVID this week, 595,000 and counting. Again, we've seen the number of people who are dying from COVID go down. So that's good. And, I guess we will continue to pray that this pandemic does not claim any more lives, although that's a little unrealistic. Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay, so cases seem to be going down. Souls lost. What about vaccinations, Dr. Mel? What are some vax facts?
Some vax facts. 1 in 3 of us are vaccinated. How's that?
Yeah, man.
Right
That's
here,
awesome.
3 and 3. I think we got 3 and 3.
3 and 3 right in here.
Yeah, we
Right
3 and
in
3
here.
right in here. Right.
Right in here.
And actually 56% of people have gotten at least 1 shot. So those are great things. We are continuing to be on the right track, although that's another thing that's going down is the number of people that are getting vaccinated.
Mhm.
So, the Biden administration is pulling out all the stops. People are doing pop-ups. They're going to bars and restaurants. They're throwing concerts just to get people to come out and get vaccinated. They're even paying people money.
How ethical, though? How ethical is it to 2 things? Either pay people money or to offer them to get drunk to take
Man,
the
get a
vaccine.
shot and get a shot, man. Get a
Get a
shot
shot
and get a shot.
At this point, we don't care. We just need you to get your shot because we want to reopen.
Number 1 and number 2.
Okay.
And I think that's really what it is, unless we are all under this blanket of coverage.
Okay.
Everybody who's sticking their head out from under the blanket or doesn't want to come up under the blanket is risking everybody else who's under the blanket already. So that's why the real push to get everybody under the blanket of some kind of immunity from the vaccine. So we're going to be pushing hard to get to 70% by, of the population vaccinated by this summer, so that hopefully by the fall, it won't be any sort of case of surges coming from the variants because people have not gotten completely vaccinated.
We can do it. But Dr. Mel, do you think we can do it? Do you think that we'll need a booster? Is there any information about a booster shot?
Yeah, so it's still not 100% certain. It all is based upon how things go with the variants. And so, I've broken down the variants before, but just so that everybody is on the same page, when a virus gets into your body and, its whole purpose is to turn your body into a virus-making factory, in that process of making more little baby viruses, sometimes things get variations happen, changes happen to the basic structure of the virus in that reproduction process. And that's what's called a variant, a variation. And sometimes those variants that happen, that pop up, are harmless. That it really means nothing. But sometimes it makes the virus more infectious or more deadly. And so the purpose of the booster is to make sure that we're covering for those new variations, those new variants that have popped up that are more infectious and more deadly. So Moderna has actually come up with a booster. It's being tested right now. They're probably within a month or two going to be asking for emergency use authorization so that people who got vaccinated with the Moderna vaccine will now be covered by this booster, which will cover the more concerning variants that have emerged, the UK variant, the South African, the Indian, and the Brazilian variant, so that when people are re-exposed or exposed to those for the first time, that they too will be covered.
Awesome.
Yep.
So more facts. Do the children need to be vaccinated, Dr. Mill?
Lila, you must be watching the news because we have breaking news that the Pfizer vaccine got approved for kids 12 to 15, actually.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, yeah, we need a vaccine for children, not just to achieve herd immunity, but also to cover the children themselves. We know that COVID is less severe in children than in adults, but we know too that there have been tens of thousands of hospitalizations of children. We know that children can get that MSC condition, which happens after a benign case of COVID. A week or two later, they can come down with very severe inflammatory symptoms that are life-threatening. So for those reasons, we need it to protect children. And we know that children now are accounting for greater share of the COVID cases because adults are vaccinated, especially our seniors. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and then let's not forget all along those 18 to 24-year-olds, they're actually the ones that spread COVID the most, and teenagers are right behind them. Kids, under less than teens, younger than teens, not as much, but that's because they're more closely supervised at home than the teenagers. So They definitely, we need a vaccine to keep the spread down and to protect children so they can go to summer camp and go back to school safely.
Oh, Brother Wayne, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Always need to hear me. You always need to hear me. Look, so that was a shout out. That booster soon come was a shout out to all our people in Jamaica who are watching, who are currently watching. We see you. Check in from Jamaica. So look, while all this pandemic is happening, other things are still happening in the health world, and other things before we went into the pandemic. Two big stories were on our plate. That was opioids and dementia. It seemed like everybody had a elder, or some people. Dr. Mel and I have lost friends from early dementia. And
I'm caring for an elder in my family with dementia. Yeah.
Wow. So
we're all been kind of touched. Yeah.
So we've all been kind of touched. So some new news came out, Dr. Mel, this week about dementia. You want to share with everyone?
Absolutely. I call it diabetes and dementia. And so this is the deal. A recent report was just published this week about how the younger you are diagnosed in life with type 2 diabetes, right, is the higher your risk for dementia later in life. And for every 5 years under age 70, the risk increases by 24%. So that's huge. Researchers aren't really sure why that correlation is, but then I think that's where the diet piece comes in, because we know that diet is a huge factor. Nutrition is a huge factor in our risk for diabetes. And lo and behold, there was another study that was published this week about nutrition and dementia, which shows that a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, olive oil, and fish, the so-called Mediterranean diet, seems to protect the brain from the buildup of plaque, which is a product of inflammation in the brain that's associated with dementia. So with these two pieces of news, it really underscores the need for us to pay attention early in life to our diet, what we're eating, what we're putting in our body. Make sure that it's not promoting inflammation, that it's actually decreasing inflammation, because it puts us at risk for diabetes, for Alzheimer's and dementia, and many other conditions. So this is just a wake-up call, I think, to really remember to focus on healthy nutrition.
Wow.
For sure.
So I recently read, and I walk a lot. It doesn't look like I walk a lot, but I walk a lot now, and I walk in the forest area. So I recently read about Lyme disease on the uptick. You want to speak to that?
No pun intended on the uptick. So for those in the know, ticks are what spread Lyme disease. And Lyme disease is when ticks bite you and they're infected with a certain bacteria, it can cause joint pains, rash, even as severe as heart complications and nervous system complications like numbness and seizures. And so typically, Lyme disease has been mainly on the East Coast and maybe in the middle of the country and forested areas, like Wayne said. But now they found it in the beaches in Northern California. So it seems to be spreading across the United States. And so, with people cooped up because of COVID and getting out more and more, especially with summer coming, they're really concerned that this is going to be a big season for Lyme disease. So remember, when you're going into wooded areas or in the vegetation close to beaches, you got to put on long sleeves, protect your feet, and take a shower immediately when you come in, like within 2 hours after coming in. Check your body for ticks. Ticks are just basically the size of a poppy seed. And when they latch onto you, they grow in size. It takes about 2 to 3 days for a tick to be on you before it transmits Lyme disease to you. So the sooner you're able to get it and pull it off, the better. So just be careful this summer when you're going outside, even just to do your gardening or just in the yard.
Go to the beach covered up.
Well, on the sand, you're good to go. But if you're at like one of those beaches that have vegetation, the grasses and stuff growing along the beach. Yeah. You know what I mean.
I do.
Okay. You know what time it is. We finished the recap. You do know what time it is, right?
What time is it?
It's debunk time. It is
the weekly debunk. Stopping misinformation in its tracks.
Twitter Tanisha says, I heard in my Facebook mommy group that there's no way I should take the vaccine because I will either have a miscarriage or be sterile later. Is that true?
Those are two pretty scary things that are absolutely not true. I do about 3 talks a week outside the show to various community groups and employers too for their employees. And this is still the number one question that I get about the vaccine. Does it cause infertility? So let me break it down. There are 3 reasons why this infertility concern is circulating. The first is because of Bill Gates, and there's a video that says that he uses vaccines, or he says that vaccines can be linked to population control. So let's talk about that. The reason why vaccines are linked to population control is because, especially for childhood vaccines, it allows children to survive those infectious diseases like smallpox, whooping cough, polio, that have typically caused a lot of childhood death. So when parents know that their children are going to be able to grow up to adulthood, they make the decision to have fewer children, which hence then leads to lower numbers of population, not because vaccines are killing off children or causing infertility. The second concern is that the vaccine is made of virus genetic material that's going to alter our DNA in some way, especially our sperm or our eggs. And again, that's not based on any kind of fact. We are exposed to viral DNA hundreds of thousands of times in our lives. Every time we get a cold or a flu or the stomach flu, we're exposed to viral DNA, and it doesn't cause infertility. There's no difference between that and the viral DNA that's used in the vaccine. The main difference is that it's only a small piece of viral genetic material that's used that goes to make up the spike protein, not the entire coronavirus. And so there's no way that it can actually reach our DNA, because even when it gets into our cells, it sits in a separate compartment of our cell, protected away from our own DNA, number one. And number two, when it gets into our body destroys it within hours. And so there's really not an opportunity for it to affect our DNA. And then the third thing is that there's a concern that the spike protein of the coronavirus looks like the glue, the protein that holds the uterus to the placenta in a woman that's pregnant. And the concern is that if we make antibodies to the coronavirus, to the coronavirus spike protein, we might be making those same antibodies will then attack the lining of our uterus in a pregnant woman and cause a placenta to dislodge, which would lead to a miscarriage. Very involved, I know. Well, theoretically, it sounds like it would make sense. Like any good piece of misinformation circulating on the internet, there's always a negative truth. But the fact is that we have seen over 35,000 women vaccinated using the coronavirus vaccine, and we've seen no increase in the rate of miscarriage, preterm birth, maternal hemorrhage, any of the complications that you would think would go along with such an occurrence. And so the good news is that we know that COVID is very serious in pregnant women. And for that reason, OBGYNs have been encouraging their pregnant patients to consider getting vaccinated. And so, of course, we're not, again, seeing any increased rates of infertility, miscarriage, or any other pregnancy complication. So that's the weekly debunk.
Woo. And there you have it, Twitter Tanisha. Was it Twitter Tanisha?
I don't know, but if it was Twitter Tanisha, I hope she feels some level of comfort with that answer. And that she talks with her OBGYN before making a decision about getting the COVID vaccine if she's still not sure.
That's it. So I guess we catch you in a little bit, Dr. Mel.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lila and Wayne. I'm going to see you all very shortly. And before we launch into our show for tonight, I just want to remind everybody, remember to write your questions in the comments, because we would love to hear from you and love to get your questions and comments about this hot topic that I know we're going to be discussing right now. So how many times have you heard from your friends or even thought yourself, well, I'm going to take my vitamins, my elderberry, my echinacea, I work out, I drink my smoothies. I don't need the coronavirus vaccination. I'm good. I don't even have to be concerned about COVID. So, if you have thought that, or you know somebody who has thought it, this show is for you, because our topic tonight is for our natural and our alternative medicine community, BHE, Be Health Empowered family. And so the question is, why do I need the COVID vaccine? So again, start sharing this with everybody, because we're about to bring on Dr. Theodore Watkins Sr. He is the medical director of the Watkins Institute. He's a recognized authority in preventive health and wellness. Dr. Watkins has treated thousands of patients whose lives have been devastated by the diseases of lifestyle. He believes that if his patients are taught the principles of healthy living, diseases can be reversed and or the lifespan can be increased. He has a radio show, which I was on today, and I'll ask him to tell us about it. Welcome, Dr. Watkins.
Thank you so much. This is such a pleasure, such a pleasure. And the radio show today was just fantastic. I was really excited. Joni has been telling me about you, and I'm really excited that we got a chance to do something together, and then to back to back, double header. I mean, this is
right, double header. That's right. Can you tell everybody the name of your radio show and how they might be able to catch a rebroadcast if they can?
It's entitled "To Your Health," To Your Health, and we come on every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, it's 89.3 FM, 89.3 FM. And if you're out of the Washington, D.C. area, you can get it online, WPFWFM.org. And if you missed the show today, go to WPFW.org and hit the archives. 2 o'clock Monday, and check the archives for today, To Your Health. And it was just really fantastic.
Yeah, we had a great conversation. And so, I have some questions for you. But I first want to start off with, tell me a little bit about your practice and what are some of the success stories that you've seen with your patients when you have been addressing those diseases of lifestyle, and what that means, what diseases of lifestyle are.
First of all, you need to understand that my background is surgery. I did a 5-year residency at Howard under the Dr. Sally LaFall. And I was really into surgery, and I feel that I was impressed to leave surgery and go into alternative medicine. And I left sort of kicking and screaming because I really enjoyed cutting and was actually, I hate to say it, but I was pretty good with that knife. But when I went into holistic medicine, the patients that came to me were patients with stage 4 cancer, stage 4 heart disease. At the time, HIV was really, really big, and so HIV, diabetes, the usual. And I laugh about it now, but I used to say that I have to help some of those patients get well. Otherwise, the word would go out, don't go to Watkins. If you go to Watkins, you're going to die. But I learned that if one was willing to change their lifestyle, that you could reverse diseases that others, the John Hopkins, the Georgetowns, said couldn't be reversed. They would send them home to die. They would come to me. We'd change their lifestyles, and many of them would recover. And so we've seen some really fantastic results over the years in a number of areas.
Yeah, in my own family, My father-in-law has lost 120 pounds. He no longer has to take high blood pressure medicine, no longer has to take diabetes medication. So yes, we know that these diseases of lifestyle are reversible. And the reason I wanted you to mention that is because, for those audience members who ascribe to holistic medicine, I want them to understand your pedigree and your background, that you have been in holistic medicine for a long time and have been treating people along these principles.
Like I said, I'm an old man, but it's exciting because my wife, she doesn't like me to say that, and I tell her as long as I say it, that means that I really don't mean it. Because even though I have the age, I feel blessed. That by sort of practicing what I preach, that I've been able to maintain good health myself, and some of the diseases, in fact, I think it was Dr. C. Everett Koop, who was the Surgeon General under Ronald Reagan, who said that 9 out of 10 of the leading causes of death could be prevented with lifestyle. And I tell people, Dr. Ted Watkins says that 9 out of 10 of the leading causes of death can be reversed with lifestyle.
Right.
And so
but now, those are 9 and
change.
Yeah. So those are the 9 or the 10 leading causes of death. But we're going to be talking about infectious disease tonight, specifically COVID. And so, I want to hear from you why you think that it's important for people to get the COVID vaccine, even if they ascribe to holistic principles and live a holistic lifestyle.
Well, the simple answer is that the virus kills. The vaccine does not. That's the simple answer. I doubt that anyone watching us tonight doesn't have a family member or someone very close to them that have died as a result of COVID. All right, and this virus is different, I believe, than anything else we've seen. Because it just doesn't act like a normal virus. It doesn't want to behave. You were talking about the variant earlier. A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed a good friend of mine, pediatrician, and we were talking about, you talked about the severity of the disease in children. Well, they often compare the COVID virus to the flu virus.
Mm-hmm.
The flu virus kills what? Old and young. All right?
Yeah.
Well, the corona kills the old, but has not killed the young until until the variant started. And one of the interesting thing is that even I thought for a long time that the children were not getting infected, but I learned that the children were actually getting infected but not getting sick. But now they're getting sick. They're going to the hospital, and many more of them are dying. Why is this variant affecting these children the way that it's affecting? We really don't know. We really don't know. So what we have to is we have to do everything we can to protect ourselves and to protect our families. And diet is very important. Some supplementation is very important. But in addition to that, I believe we need to do everything we can. If the left one won't get you, the right one will. We need to understand that. And we need to make sure that we cover ourselves with every tool possible.
I do a debunk every week, and you might have heard the one that we did. This one was about infertility, that the vaccine causes infertility. And so I just explained why that isn't the case. What are some of the things that you've been hearing in your practice or on the airwaves in terms of the top 3 concerns that people have in terms of misinformation about the COVID vaccine?
Well, one of the as you mentioned, because I practice holistic medicine, a lot of my patients You know, and in fact, I have a sheet that I prepared for prevention and treatment with COVID, and I've treated a number of patients with COVID, and fortunately, all of them have recovered. You know, the one
Wonderful.
patient that died was a patient that was in Michigan. I sent him some stuff. He got it, and the day he got it, he called me. But I could hear when he called before he even started taking the supplements that I sent him that he was in serious trouble. I said, call me back in 2 hours, but I wouldn't even wait 2 hours. I called him an hour and a half, and he was having, you know, the agonal breathing. I said, ambulance immediately and take him to the hospital. Yeah. He's the only one that died. All the other patients have recovered using natural means, but we don't want you to get sick.
Right.
You know? So if you do the supplements, if you eat right, you know, for when the virus first came out, you know, I was searching the literature trying to find what was being said about nutrition and boosting the immune system and COVID, and there was absent nothing. Finally, there was an article that came out. I believe it was in Spain, Italy, where they were saying
vitamin D.
You know, countries that had high levels of vitamin D had lower incidence of COVID. If they got sick, they were less likely to go to the hospital. If they went to the hospital, they're less likely to go to ICU and less likely to die. So we recommend high levels of vitamin D. We recommend high levels of vitamin C, NAC, elderberry, the works. There are different herbs. One of my patients, Africa, and I said, now, what's happening with COVID in Africa? And she was telling me, I said, tell me the herbs. And we put together some herbal combinations that we would recommend to people to take for various things. And I give it to all of my patients. But I also, they called me, they said, Dr. Watkins, what do you recommend as far as the virus is concerned? I mean, the vaccine. I said, I took it. My wife took it. All of my children has taken it. My brother, you know, I believe that the vaccine is important and that we should take it. And I'm not a big person of vaccine. I haven't taken a flu vaccine in over 20 years. All right. But this is not the flu. And we need to understand that.
Right. And I mean, there are going to be some things that you and I might not see eye to eye on, but we do see eye to eye for sure on taking the COVID vaccine. I take the flu vaccine because, you know, I historically have worked with patients in high risk areas like the emergency department, like in urgent care, or I go into hospitals, into ICUs. And so therefore, I can't even carry, it's not good for me to carry potentially the flu virus into an ICU setting, right? So I've always found it important to take the flu vaccine for that reason, even though, you know, if I get sick with the flu, I know that I would survive. And I think that's the idea behind taking the COVID vaccine, that we don't, even if we personally would survive, you know, we don't want to risk the health of others around us.
You can be carrier.
Right.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't do any hospital-based medicine anymore.
Right.
I probably would have to take the
right. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. For you
now
have
oil of oregano, and
right.
And I get very, very good results.
Right. Wonderful. Wonderful. And so I think, you know, we had some really good analogies on your show this morning. I believe Dr. Mills mentioned the analogy of driving down the highway at a high speed, even though you have airbags and a seat belt, you're not going to go 90 miles an hour in snowy weather conditions, right?
That's right.
And
that's right.
My analogy for taking the COVID vaccine is, if you are given the answers the night before to a pop quiz, you're going to do better on that pop quiz, no matter how smart you are. So no matter how healthy you are, which is the same as no matter how smart you are, if you get a vaccine before you're exposed to the coronavirus, your body will be specifically prepared to address the coronavirus. So,
and one of the things that we have to consider is, well, why would you not take the vaccine? You know,
yeah,
we know what the virus is doing. Is the vaccine effective? And does it cause significant side effects? Well, I think the answer to both of those is pretty obvious to someone who would look. The vaccine is definitely effective. You know, with the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine, they're 95, 94%, and at actual that was in the trials, and in actual 90, 91% effective in the actual looking at patients since it's been out these 6 months. You know, the Johnson & Johnson was something like 64% in the trial, and 70% since it's been out. I took the Johnson & Johnson. People say, why? I said, because that was the first one that was available. I was getting up at night, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to get on the list. And, you know, because I wanted to be able to be around my children and my grandchildren.
Sure.
And that afforded me that. And so, you know, so it's effective, and it doesn't cause the side effects. You know, the only side effect I had was it hurt when I took the shot.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
15 minutes, and even that was gone. None of my, I think the worst, one of my daughters had a headache. She took a little nap, and the headache was gone. My wife was a little tired afterwards, but my wife's a workaholic. And I said, baby, that could have been, you were up at 3 o'clock this morning working on that case. You were up working on that case. It could have been you just tired. But I after I got mine, I worked all that day, and had no fatigue or anything, and have had no ill effects.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And then one of the other concerns I know that some people have is, you know, the fact that it seems like the vaccine was rushed. So what would you say to people in terms of their concerns about that and long-term side effects?
Well, first of all, the technology, they've been working on the technology for many, many years. So that's one of the things that a lot of people, although it's been said, some people haven't heard it. You know, the other thing is that when we're in a crisis, we work overtime, hundreds and thousands of scientists, top flight scientists around the world, focus in on this, because this is a pandemic, and it's a killer. And so people have put in tremendous energy and time, resources to prepare this vaccine, and it's been tested, you know, and it's proven to be effective. So then we have now 6 months of actually using it all over the world, and unless they've done a really good job, I mean, a really good job of hiding the results. The results are negative. So in an emergency, you don't just cruise, you go overtime, and when you can develop things more rapidly than, you know, the need was here, and it was done. So I have a problem with the fact that it was rushed, because I've looked at the data of its effectiveness and the side effects, and I'm satisfied with the data.
Yeah, no, you have some excellent points there, and I think we forget sometimes that this is a worldwide phenomenon with scientists around the world. And like you said, if there was some conspiracy theory, there'd have to be a lot of people in on it to hide, you know, that it was hurting or harming people in some kind of way, because this has probably been the most transparent, most examined product that has ever been brought to market. And so,
exactly.
Yeah,
And one of the things that we have to understand is that I believe one of the major reasons that people feel the way they feel is because of how this thing has been blown up with the fake news, with um, um, uh, the Russians and people putting information out there. I mean, you remember when the virus first came out, the word was that Black people didn't get the virus.
Right, exactly. Until Idris Elba got it, and then we realized that we got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember very well.
That we got the virus, that we were the ones in the hospitals and we were the ones dying at a tremendous rate. Initially twice the number of deaths were in our community, or half the deaths were in our community, and we represent what, 6% of the population, 13%.
13%,
13% of the population, and yet close to 50% of the deaths were in our community. So that there's something wrong there, and anytime we're going to hook up with the far right and the
the white supremacists,
and the Russians to not do something, that's not good company. My mama taught me, watch out who you hang with.
Right, exactly. Well, we're having a great discussion, but I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to hear from the audience in terms of their questions and comments. So Lila and Wayne, can you all come on back in and let us know what's going on in the chat?
Yeah, I have to tell you what's going on in the chat, because let me tell you, the conspiracy theorists are they abound. They are out and about in these Facebook streets tonight. And Dr. Mel, you and Dr. Watkins are paired. Right, listen, apparently y'all have been paid off by Bill Gates.
Right.
Oh dear. Okay.
Both of you. And
all right.
And Dr. Mel, you haven't given me my cut of the check.
I know.
It's very interesting.
Right.
One of my patients said to me one day, Doc, a lot of your listeners don't agree with you. They're going to be angry with you. I said, I didn't go into medicine to please people. I went into medicine to tell people the truth.
Right.
Hello.
I have to share the truth. And the reality is, if we open our eyes and look at what's happening around us, I think a lot of people would think differently.
And absolutely. And I'd like to say two things to pick up on what Dr. Watkins said. If you find yourself on the same side of an issue as a white supremacist, you might want to think again, number one. And number two, there were a lot of people coming into the Black community to get vaccinated. If it was such a conspiracy theory or conspiracy against the Black community or against people in general, do you think that well-resourced people would have been coming into the community to try to get your vaccination?
They were flying into Florida on jets, private jets.
On private jets, Doctor.
The
well-resourced people.
Our community.
So I have to say this before we go any further, Dr. Watkins, and I thank you for just the great information. I have to say this because I control the comments coming in. We must keep our comments civil and respectful, because Dr. Watkins has several degrees and Dr. Mel has degrees abound, and Lila has several degrees. I got my degree from the streets, so sometimes I cannot be civil. So for me,
I'm project.
For me, let's be civil, okay? So we got a couple questions, and I'm not going to the wild questions. I'm not going to address. So I'm sorry, y'all could go to somebody else's page. Yeah, just move on. Just move on. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100. Let's move on. We have a question from Sunny Days. It reads, I read interesting information related to organ transplant recipients and the vaccine. 46% of the study group of fully vaccinated participants had no antibodies. Can you speak to this new information?
When people, I can address that because, when I was in surgery, I spent a lot of time on transplant. And when you get a transplanted organ, you have to use really strong immune suppressant medication. And when you do this, it suppresses the immune system. And you do a good job. When you give a vaccine, it should not have the same effect. Some of the people will get some antibodies, but some will not get any. All right. But the interesting thing is, one of the articles I read, it said that even though they aren't getting antibodies, it doesn't mean that they aren't getting some protection. And so the doctors, the transplant doctors, were still recommending that they should take the vaccine.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Watkins. And I do want to say one thing. We have been on these airwaves over a year now, and most of the shows that we have done have been related to COVID-19 prevention and or the vaccine in some way, shape, or form. And I have not accepted any money for the thousands of hours that I have put into this show. And I do this because not only am I in medicine to tell the truth, just like Dr. Watkins, but I am here because I care. I care about my community. I care about my listeners. And I am only going to tell you what I would do for myself. And I have taken the vaccine. My mother has taken the vaccine. And I had to make that decision for her because just like relatives, the relative in Lila's family who she's cared for with dementia, my mom has dementia. And so it was a difficult decision to make a decision for someone else who can't make one for themselves. And I thought that it was more important that she be protected than anything else. And so for all those people out there who are concerned about our integrity, I can guarantee you that we're here because we care.
And I've been on the radio for almost 20 years, and I've not one dime, but I do it because I believe, I went into medicine. As I said, I'm a project boy, a welfare kid. God has blessed me. And I feel that it's my responsibility to give back. When I went into a housing project in Washington, D.C. and set up a practice, they thought I was there because I wasn't good. I said, I chose you over the high rent district, 19th and L, because people in the projects need good doctors too. And we're here to give information, and we don't have to agree, but after this program is over, we still are in the fight together.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There we go. There we go. So we have another question coming. I saw from Dimitri Welling. Dimitri says, what should pregnant women take if you're not going to take the vaccine?
I think that's for Dr. Watkins.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. I was just talking to actually a physician today, and I was telling him I'm going to actually read up on the some of the side effects of some of the things that we recommend. But I believe that they can take the vitamin D, they can take vitamin C. They certainly can take things like the oil of oregano, but there's certain herbs and so forth that they don't recommend. I have to be honest, I have to really bone up on that. I don't like to give information that that I'm not sure about.
And for all pregnant women, I think it's important to stay well hydrated, especially with summer coming, because you are making more blood and you have to get more blood to the baby. And so you want to make sure that you're well hydrated to be able to do that. You want to make sure that you're getting enough rest. Your body is in a hypermetabolic state, meaning it's all revved up. And so you want to make sure that you're getting at least 7 to 8 hours of rest. You want to avoid those things that are that cause inflammation in the body. So you want to stay away from processed foods. You want to eat whole grains, as well as vegetables, lean meats, if you're a meat eater, and do those things that are going to promote your overall health. And along with what Dr. Watkins just recommended, that's, I think, a very important approach, in addition to talking with your OBGYN, as well, in terms of the decision to take the vaccine.
The juices and smoothies, I think, would also be good because they give you a high concentration of nutrients in a way that your body can really handle it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Our next question comes.
And sunshine, vitamin D.
Oh yeah, sunshine.
Lila,
Absolutely.
Lila, you have any?
Yeah, I saw a question from Ellen Claire Lamb, and her question was, in terms of regarding the boosters, do the boosters have to be the same, from the same manufacturer as your original vaccination, Dr. Mill?
Excellent question, Ellen. You know, I have not seen the data on the Moderna trial, but I'm pretty sure that they are conducting the booster trials on Moderna recipients. And so as such, if the booster is approved, I'm pretty sure it's going to be, you know, you take the Moderna booster if you've had the Moderna shots, and same for Pfizer should they come out with a booster. And same for J&J.
Yeah, J&J is working on a booster now, and I don't know that the booster will be necessary, but they're working on it in case it is necessary.
Exactly.
You got another one, Lai?
I do. I have a statement that I'd like to read, and this is for Dr. Mill and Dr. Watkins, from Michelle Walker Scales. So nice to meet you, Dr. Watkins. Thank you. Thank you for caring for the community. That's from Janice Gary. So we do have some love in the comments. I just wanted to spread a little bit of love.
Thank you, Janice and Michelle.
Thank you.
All right. We have one for Dr. Watkins, and it comes from, I'm trying to scroll back to get it. It comes from Rhonda Walker, and she asks, how do you start a holistic program? What do you recommend? How do you start? Where do you begin this?
Excellent question.
Well, after I do an evaluation, history, and so forth, if there's no contraindications, I generally start all of my patients, or most of my patients, on a fasting cleansing program to detoxify them. And they generally do that 10 to 14 days. And then after that, we put them on a diet program. We put them on an exercise program. We work on changing their thinking. You know, we focus on stress. The big four for me is stress, exercise, nutrition, and cleansing. And so we incorporate all of that into their program, and we do an individual program because everyone is different. And so that's how we do it.
Okay. All right. We have you got another one, Lai?
I do. I saw one from Thurston about, where is it? Does the vaccine disable some of our natural antibodies, opening us up to infection of the variants? Dr. Mill?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Thurston. No, it doesn't. So the immune system is not a zero-sum game, meaning you have almost infinite potential in your immune system to mount antibodies against whatever the threat is. And that's why it's important to do all those things that Dr. Watson talks about in terms of building your overall health, because the more you have overall health is the more robust your immune system is to be able to mount a response to a vaccine or to a disease. So if you are getting vaccinated, your body can mount an immune response and produce the antibodies that you need, so that should you come in touch or an exposure to the coronavirus down the line, you already know what the threat is. Your body already has the immune cells primed to be able to produce the antibodies at the drop of a hat. And so it doesn't take away from any other parts of your immune system or any other ways that your immune system might be needed for other diseases. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. We have I like to follow up with that one from Thurston. He wants to know, how can he become Dr. Watkins' patient? Dr. Watkins, do you want to share that information?
Well, you can go to my website and make an appointment. It's twiliving.com, twiliving.com. Call my office at 202-388-0992.
We'll drop it in the comment.
We will drop it in the comments. We have another one from Kay Williams. Dr. Watkins, what 3 supplements, foods do you absolutely recommend?
Well, vitamin D is on top. Vitamin D is so important, not just for COVID, but for so many things: diabetes, cancer, hypertension. Vitamin D is excellent, and unfortunately, we have to be in the sun about 6 times as long as whites to get the same level of vitamin D. I used to do vitamin D levels on all of my patients. All right, I stopped doing it because all of them were negative, were low. All of them were low, and so I just make sure that they get the vitamin D. So vitamin D is very, very important. I also, you heard me mention oil of oregano. To me, it's such an excellent supplement for colds, flus, allergies, etc. I recommend. In some cases, vitamin C, not always, but in some cases, vitamin C. With the corona, I recommend vitamin C. And if you're vegetarian, you need at least B12, if not the B complex.
I think we got 2 questions, and they have to be quick. They are going to be very quick. Pam Kennedy Chapman says, how effective is elderberry as an immune booster?
It appears to be very effective.
Okay. And then Marilyn Logan Giles, hope I pronounced that right, said, could you comment on if you already had COVID and needing only 1 shot if you already had COVID?
So I don't think that there have been any definitive studies yet on that. It's still recommended that you get 2 of the shots if it's a mRNA vaccine like Moderna or Pfizer. Of course, if it's a J&J, you only need 1 vaccination. So I think the jury is still out on that, and the recommendations still stand as is.
Okay, I think that's
all right. Well, I think we have to unfortunately wrap up. Dr. Watkins, you have been a wonderful guest. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your experience, for your knowledge, for sharing your caring with our Be Health Empowered family here this evening. Thank you also to my wonderful co-producers, Wayne and Lila. Thank you to the audience. You all are fantastic. And even those people who put the negative things in the comments, I know it's because you truly believe what you believe. Unfortunately, I think it's probably based on things on social media, misinformation that's out there that has been intentionally planted and magnified by people who don't necessarily have our best interests at heart. And so I encourage you to come back, be part of the BHE, our Be Health Empowered family, because that's what we're here for. We're here to have those dialogues. We're here to try to help set the record straight. And we're here every Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We thank you so much for joining. And until I see you again, please remember, be wise, be well, and be health empowered.